Look at your hand. If there is a diamond on it, you are not looking at a stone. You are looking at a 100-year-old psychological operation, designed by a single banking family to convince the entire world that love has a price, and to make sure they were the only ones who could collect it. That family did not stop at diamonds. By the end of this video, you will understand for things most people never connect. How one family turned a battlefield into a personal fortune. How another legally avoided £4 billion in tax that you had to pay. How a chemical empire may have criminalized a plant to protect its own profits. And how the people who make your chocolate were allegedly meeting in secret how much you would pay for it. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the ledger. Real names, real blood. And a level of power that does not disappear just because you look away. Chapter 1. The family that bankrolled a continent. You wear the diamond on your finger, but the Rothschilds wore it to build a continent. To understand how, we have to look at a teenager named Cecil Rhodes, who arrived in South Africa in 1871 with weak lungs and enormous ambition. He wanted to build a diamond empire, but diamond empires require capital, enormous amounts of it. Only Rothschild & Co. institution was capable of moving that kind of money at that speed. With funding from Rothschild & Co., Rhodes began to systematically buy out and consolidate diamond mines. Over the next 2 decades, he gained a near-complete monopoly of the world diamond market. But here is what that monopoly actually looked like on the ground. Rhodes used his Rothschild-backed fortune to seize land across Africa, to strip black Africans of voting rights, to force indigenous miners into labor compounds under conditions that would be called slavery in any honest language. He founded colonies named after himself, present-day Zimbabwe and Zambia, through military campaigns that massacred entire communities. In the Battle of Shangani River in 1853, 1,500 Matable warriors were slaughtered while only 4 British troopers died. The weapon used? The Maxim gun. One of the main financiers of the Maxim Company was Nathaniel Rothschild. The Rothschilds financed the weapon, the Rothschilds financed the man, the wealth extracted from African land and African blood flowed directly back to London, into Rothschild accounts. And when Rhodes died, he left his entire estate to a trust administered by the Rothschilds. A trust that, to this day, funds the Rhodes Scholarship, one of the most prestigious academic awards in the world. The empire never ended, it just changed its suit, attended by future presidents, prime ministers, and heads of state. Chapter 2. The battle that made them untouchable. June 1815, Waterloo. Napoleon had just lost, Britain had won. But in London, nobody knew yet, except Nathan Rothschild. His couriers used coded messages and carrier pigeons to relay information across Europe faster than any government system. He arrived at the London Stock Exchange the next morning, and he sold. The market watched him and concluded the worst. Britain had lost. Panic spread instantly. Prices collapsed. At the precise bottom, Nathan bought everything. When the official news arrived hours later, the market exploded upward. Nathan called it, in his own words, the best business he ever did. But that was not the move that made the Rothschilds truly untouchable. That came 11 years later, in the year 1826. The firm stepped in with an instant injection of gold to save the Bank of England. Think about what that means. The institution designed to oversee British banking now owed its survival to Rothschild family. Alfred D. Rothschild became the director of the Bank of England in the year 1869, a post he held for 20 years. And then 2 future French presidents, Georges Pompidou and Emmanuel Macron, worked at the Rothschild Bank before entering politics. The man who ran France in the 1970s, the man running France today, both came through Rothschild first. At what point does coincidence stop being coincidence? Chapter 3. The family that legally stole £4 billion. Now let us talk about the Grosvenors. And a legal trick so perfectly built that it has worked across every single generation for 350 years. It started in the year 1677 with one marriage. Sir Thomas Grosvenor married a 12-year-old heiress named Mary Davies. Her dowry included 500 acres of swampy land on the edge of London. That land is now called Mayfair and Belgravia. The family collects vast rents from owning 100 acres of Mayfair and 200 of Belgravia. Every hotel, every embassy, every luxury store, the buildings change hands, the land underneath never does. When the 6th Duke died in the year 2016, his 25-year-old son Hugh inherited $9.3 billion overnight. You and I pay 40% inheritance tax. But clever trust planning meant that no tax was payable on that £9.3 billion. £4 billion that should have gone to hospitals, schools, and public services stayed inside the Grosvenor Trust, intact, untouched. But the darker chapter is this. When the 4th Duke died in 1967, the family convinced the taxman that his estate should be exempt from death duties on the grounds that he had died from wounds sustained in World War II, despite the fact that he had survived the war by a further 22 years, and the actual cause of death was cancer. They fought a 12-year legal battle, and they won, optional for them, mandatory for everyone else. And Hugh Grosvenor, the 25-year-old who received this fortune without earning a single pound of it, is the godfather of Prince George of Wales. Prince William served as an usher at his wedding. The system does not maintain itself by accident, it maintains itself through proximity. Chapter 4. The empire that may have made a plant illegal to protect its profits. The DuPont family built their fortune on gunpowder. They supplied every major American war, and by the year 1937 they had just patented nylon, their entire future built on synthetic petrochemical fiber. At that exact moment, industrial hemp was about to become more commercially viable than ever. New machines could process it cheaply. Popular mechanics had just called it the new billion-dollar crop. That same year, Congress passed the Tax Act on hemp. Hemp was effectively destroyed as an industry by this act. If hemp had not been made illegal, 80% of DuPont's business would never have materialized. Andrew Mellon, the Secretary of the Treasury, the wealthiest man in America, had personally invested in DuPont's nylon to compete with hemp. The man responsible for enforcing the tax act that destroyed hemp was personally invested in the product that replaced it. In 1997, DuPont was still the largest producer of man-made fibers, while no American citizen had legally harvested a single acre of textile-grade hemp in over 60 years. 60 years. While farmers lost a crop, DuPont collected the profits. But if you think manipulating the laws of industry is bold, wait until you see how those same laws protect the family's own blood. In 2009, Robert H. Richards IV, great-grandson of chemical magnate I.N.E. DuPont and heir to the DuPont family fortune, entered a guilty plea for conducting inhuman act against his 3-year-old daughter. The judge suspended his 8-year prison sentence, noting that the defendant would not fare well in prison. He returned to his multi-million-dollar trust fund, no prison, complete silence, for 5 years. In the same state whose legal system DuPont money had shaped for 2 centuries, the law bends for those who helped writing it. Chapter 5. The family that fixed the price of your chocolate. The Mars family makes Snickers, M&M's, Milky Way, Twix, Skittles. They are one of the largest privately owned companies on Earth, and I am almost certain you could not name a single member of their family. That is not an accident. That is a strategy, passed down like a family value. Mars Incorporation is the black hole of the packaged goods universe, so powerful that it influences everything around it, yet so secretive that not a single fragment of information ever comes from its dark center. No offices, no press interviews since 1993. A fortune estimated at $117 billion, total silence. But the silence did not mean nothing was happening. According to affidavits submitted in an Ontario court, top executives at Hershey, Mars, and Nestle met secretly in coffee shops, restaurants, and conventions to fix chocolate prices. Chocolate prices rose 38% between 2004 and 2008, not because cocoa got more expensive, because the people selling it allegedly decided together how much you would pay. In 2013, 11 chocolate companies were fined over 60 million euros for price collusion in Germany. Mars escaped financial penalty as one of the first to cooperate with investigators. The family that allegedly helped start the arrangement was also the first to walk away without paying a fine. And through all of it, the lawsuits, the investigations, the fines, not one family member gave a single interview. The one time a photographer tried to capture a senior Mars family member at a public event, he was not just told no, he was physically swarmed, a cloth thrown over his lens, a total blackout in broad daylight. That is not shyness. That is a system so refined, so deeply embedded, that protecting it has become pure instinct. Rapid recap. The Rothschilds financed Cecil Rhodes, then funded the massacred 1,500 African warriors, and built a diamond monopoly by colonizing Africa. Then placed a family member inside the Bank of England for 20 years and employed 2 future French presidents. The Grosvenors avoided £4 billion in inheritance tax, fought a 12-year legal battle to call a cancer death a war wound, and the current Duke is godfather to the future King of England. The DuPonts allegedly lobbied hemp into illegality to protect nylon industry, and a family heir convicted of inhuman act walked out of a Delaware court with probation and returned to his trust fund. The Mars family allegedly fixed chocolate prices for 6 years, escaped penalty by cooperating first, and has not spoken to a journalist since 1993. Here is what all 4 of these families understood. Visible power is fragile. It attracts enemies. It attracts taxes. It attracts journalists. These families did not get lucky. They built systems, systems designed not to survive one generation, but every generation, regardless of what happens inside them. So here is the question. Which of these 4 families do you think has the most control over your life right now?